The Bubonic Plague, 1347 to 1351 in Europe. The culprits. You have the bacteria, the fleas, and the rats. Now, the transmission. The fleas will drink the rat's blood, right? They get the bacteria in them. The bacteria will multiply. It fills up the gut of the flea. The flea then bites a human, and as it bites the human, some of that bacteria comes out inside the wound, and then the humans will get infected. Poor living conditions in Europe at this time helped the disease to spread. At that time, as we can see, there's a little bit of climate change. Right? There was more rain between 1315 and 1317, which caused tons and tons of mud and failed crops to come up. Because of that, shortly after 1315 to 1317, you see a little bit of a cool down start to happen. And again, there's more crop failure. Because of this, people are living conditions turn from being okay to being horrible in some areas, basically having mud floors and mud everywhere. And then when that mud kind of starts to harden as it gets colder, you're walking on frozen mud. Right, so during 1315 to 1317, in the years following leading up to the plague, as many as 15% of peasants in English villages and some other villages died because there were not enough food in the living condition. One consequence of all the starvation and poverty made people more susceptible to diseases. So as people are becoming more and more susceptible to diseases, in 1347, all of a sudden you see that the plague will reach Constantinople. And this graph kind of shows you the Mediterranean area and where it landed. And you can see it starting down. You see where it's going down over the bad days. You see spring 1347, Constantinople. Merchant ships that we talked about coming out of Constantinople that bring goods to the west. They're bringing everything to the west. They're also bringing the disease with them, and it starts to spread. And here's a map of the spread of the Black Plague, and you can see the color code dating from 1347 to 1351 and later. You can see a few areas that got lucky and that were spared to have few or no plague deaths. You can also see that there are some battle signs out there. Those battle signs were centers of revolt. People were scared, they were desperate, they revolted, they fought back. And then you can also see this little circle down here are rural uprisings. You have the centers, urban cities, and then you have the rural uprisings. And all of them scared people trying to figure out what is happening, why it's happening, and they are desperate and they begin to revolt against the governments, the kings, and the feudal system. And as we go, the mortality rate was 35% to 70%. Now, the ultimate untimely knowing of deaths is not really truly known. It's somewhere 25 million plus died just in Europe alone. I've heard that there's been even more. Right. So it just depends on what you read, who you read, and what statistics you take it from. But during that time, 35 to 70% mortality rate, 25 plus million dead. I've heard almost up to 2/3 of some of the places in Europe population passed because of the bubonic plague.